Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a topic today that's really got people talking. Techno-optimism versus techno-pessimism.
Yeah, it's a debate that's been raging for centuries in some ways, but it feels more relevant now than ever.
Definitely. And we've got an awesome lineup of sources to dig into, like Mark Andreessen, who's firmly in the techno-optimist camp.
Right, Andreessen's basically saying, look, technology is the engine of progress. It's how we solve every problem we face.
I love that quote of his where he calls technology the spearhead of progress. It's bold. He doesn't hold back. He's really advocating for a world of abundance, and he thinks technology is the key.
Yeah, and you can see that idea echoed throughout history, right? Like, think about the Industrial Revolution or even further back. There's always been this belief that new inventions, new technologies will lead us to a better world.
It's like that sense of possibility that things can always get better.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. But then there's the other side of the coin, the potential downsides.
Right, and that's where the knowledge problem comes in, which is a concept explored by the economist Friedrich Hayek.
Okay, so break that down for me. What's the knowledge problem?
Basically, Hayek argued that no one person or group has all the answers. Like, imagine trying to solve a complex problem, but all the knowledge is scattered among millions of people.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
So Hayek said that centralized control stifles innovation because it limits the flow of information and ideas. He believed in the power of decentralized systems, like free markets, where people are free to experiment and share their knowledge.
So instead of a few people at the top calling all the shots, we need a system where everyone can contribute their ideas and solutions.
Exactly. And that's what Andreessen's getting at, too. He sees technology as a way to democratize access to information and tools, which empowers more people to innovate and create.
It's like when the first iPhone came out. It seemed kind of like a luxury, but now look at them. They're everywhere. They've changed how we communicate, how we work, how we live our lives.
And that's a powerful example of how technology can create a ripple effect, leading to changes we might not even be able to imagine right now.
But of course, it's not always that simple. Technology can also exacerbate existing inequalities, right?
Absolutely. Like, if only the wealthy can afford these life-changing advancements, then have we really progressed as a society?
Yeah, it's something we have to be really mindful of. And then there's the environmental impact to consider.
Right. Can we really innovate our way out of the climate crisis, as Andreessen seems to believe, or are we just making things worse?
These are the tough questions we need to be asking, even if we're excited about the potential of technology.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the complexity, the potential benefits, and the risks.
And speaking of complexity, let's bring in another voice, Dario Amodei. He's got this really interesting perspective because he's both an AI developer and someone who's cautious about the potential dangers.
It's like he's walking this tightrope, pushing the boundaries while also waving a warning flag.
Exactly. And he's got this idea of a compressed 21st century where AI accelerates progress in ways we can barely imagine. So we're talking about like eradicating diseases, extending lifespans, even enhancing our cognitive abilities.
Yeah, Amodei paints this picture of a future where we could potentially cure cancer, Alzheimer's, things that are considered incurable today. We might even be able to choose our biological realities to some extent.
It's like, whoa, that's a lot to take in. I mean, on the one hand, it's incredible. But on the other hand, it's like, are we ready for that?
That's the big question, right? And Amodei doesn't sugarcoat it. He's also quick to point out that even with super intelligent AI, there are still limits to what we can achieve.
Oh, interesting. So what kind of limits are we talking about?
Well, he talks about the idea of marginal returns to intelligence. Basically, there's a point where simply being smarter might not be enough to overcome certain fundamental constraints.
Okay, I think I get it. Like, even if we have AI that can solve incredibly complex problems, it can't necessarily change the laws of physics, right?
Right. Take, for example, the speed of biological processes. Even with super advanced AI, growing a new organ is still going to take time. You can't just speed up the way cells divide and multiply.
Makes sense. So it's not like AI is this magic bullet that solves everything overnight. There are still real-world limitations.
Exactly. And then you have to factor in all the ethical and societal implications, which Amodei is very aware of.
Like the potential for AI to worsen existing inequalities. I know he's written about that.
Yeah.
Like, what if only the rich can afford these amazing advancements?
Right. That's a huge concern. If these technologies are only accessible to a select few, it could create even bigger divides in society. And that brings us to another fascinating, if sometimes controversial concept, Transhumanism.
Oh, yeah, transhumanism.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those who might not be familiar, can you give us a quick rundown of what that is?
Sure. Transhumanism basically takes the idea of using technology to overcome human limitations to like the next level. It's about using things like biotechnology, nanotechnology, AI to fundamentally enhance our physical and cognitive abilities.
So, like, instead of just treating diseases, we're talking
Yeah.
about potentially eliminating the need for medicine altogether.
Kind of, or like instead of accepting aging as inevitable, we're talking about potentially extending our lifespans indefinitely.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to process. And this is something people are actively working on. This isn't just like science fiction anymore.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of thinkers and researchers who are very serious about transhumanism. Natasha Vita-More, for instance, has been a leading voice in this movement for decades.
Decades. Wow. She must have seen a lot of changes in how people perceive this idea.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, transhumanism challenges some pretty deep-seated beliefs about what it means to be human. It raises all sorts of ethical questions about our place in the natural order, the potential consequences of tampering with our biology.
It's like, are we playing God? Are we messing with forces we don't fully understand?
Right. And then there's that fear of a transhumanist elite where the wealthy can afford to enhance themselves and leave everyone else behind.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. It's like creating a whole new class system based on who has access to these enhancements.
It's a valid concern, definitely. But it's also worth remembering that a lot of technologies that were once considered luxury items, like smartphones, eventually become more accessible over time.
That's true. So it's not necessarily inevitable that transhumanist technologies would only be available to the elite.
Right. But it does underscore the importance of thinking carefully about how we develop and distribute these technologies. Like, what kind of future are we building? Do we want one where the benefits of progress are shared by all, or one where only a select few get to reap the rewards?
It's a big question, no doubt. And it makes you wonder, would you personally want to enhance your cognitive abilities if you had the chance? Like, even if it meant blurring the lines of what it means to be human.
It's a tough one. I mean, on the one hand, the possibilities are incredible, but on the other hand, it's uncharted territory. There's no way to know for sure what the long-term consequences might be.
It's like, at what point do we stop being human and become something else entirely?
Right. And that's a question that philosophers like Max Moore have been grappling with for a long time. But before we get too deep into the philosophical weeds, let's bring in another voice, someone who offers a more, I guess you could say, pragmatic perspective on all this. Vitalik Buterin.
Oh, yeah. Vitalik Buterin, the blockchain guy. Always interesting to hear what he has to say. Is he on board with all this techno-optimism and transhumanism stuff?
Well, Buterin's an interesting case because he doesn't quite fit into any one box. I mean, he's definitely excited about the potential of technology to create a better future, but he's also like very aware of the potential downsides.
So he's not just like blindly embracing every new technology that comes along.
Right. He's urging us to be more discerning, to think carefully about the values that are embedded in the technologies we create.
Okay, I like where this is going. So tell me more about his approach. What's this DAC thing all about?
So DAC stands for Defensive Decentralized Acceleration. Essentially, it's about focusing on technologies that empower individuals and communities that make society more resilient and less susceptible to catastrophic risks.
Catastrophic risks.
Hmm.
That sounds a little ominous. Is he talking about, like, AI going rogue or something?
Well, he's definitely concerned about the potential for AI to be misused, especially if it becomes concentrated in the hands of a few powerful actors. But it's broader than that. He's also worried about things like climate change, pandemics, systemic economic collapse, basically anything that could disrupt or destroy the fabric of society as we know it.
Okay, so it's about building a more robust and adaptable society, one that can withstand these kinds of shocks. And technology plays a role in that.
Absolutely. He sees technology as a tool for creating a more decentralized and resilient world. For example, he's a big proponent of things like decentralized social platforms.
Oh, interesting. So, like, instead of having a few giant companies controlling all the data and the algorithms, we could have platforms that are owned and governed by their users.
Exactly. That's the idea. He believes that giving people more control over their data and their online interactions can help to create a more democratic and less easily manipulated online space.
Makes sense. And I'm guessing blockchain technology factors into this vision somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Decentralization is kind of Buterin's bread and butter. He sees blockchain as a tool for creating systems that are more transparent, more accountable, and less vulnerable to censorship or control by any single entity.
So it's about shifting the balance of power, giving more of it back to individuals and communities.
Exactly. And he's not just talking about online spaces either. He sees the potential for a blockchain to revolutionize everything from finance to governance to supply chain management.
Wow. Okay. So we've got decentralized social platforms, blockchain powered everything. What else is in Buterin's tech toolkit for a better future?
Well, he's also really interested in the potential of things like prediction markets, which he sees as a way to harness collective intelligence and make better decisions about the future.
Prediction markets. Those are those things where people bet on the likelihood of future events, right?
Right. But it's not just about gambling. The idea is that by aggregating the predictions of a large and diverse group of people, you can actually get a more accurate forecast of what's likely to happen.
Interesting. So it's like crowdsourcing the future.
In a way, yes. And Buterin believes that this kind of tool could be incredibly valuable for everything from forecasting disease outbreaks to anticipating political upheavals to, maybe even predicting the next big technological breakthrough.
That's wild. Okay, so we've talked about decentralized social platforms, blockchain, prediction markets. Where do AI and biotechnology fit into all of this?
Yeah, those are big ones. And Buterin is definitely not ignoring them. He's actually very interested in the potential of these technologies to address some of the biggest challenges facing humanity.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples.
Well, he's written about the potential for AI to accelerate scientific discovery, for example. Like, imagine if we could use AI to develop new medicines, to cure diseases, to even slow down or reverse aging.
Okay, yeah, that's huge. But what about the risks? I mean, we were just talking about the potential for AI to be misused, to exacerbate inequality.
Right, and Buterin is acutely aware of those risks. That's why he's so adamant about developing AI responsibly, about aligning its goals with human values. And he's particularly intrigued by the potential of brain-computer interfaces.
Brain-computer interfaces. Okay, now we're getting really futuristic. What are those?
Basically, they're devices that allow your brain to interact directly with computers. It sounds like science fiction, but the technology is actually advancing quite rapidly.
Wow, okay. And what does Buterin see as the potential benefits of this technology?
Well, he believes that brain-computer interfaces could eventually allow us to enhance our cognitive abilities, to merge our minds with AI, to even create entirely new forms of communication and collaboration.
Whoa, that's a lot to wrap my head around. So instead of fearing a future where AI surpasses us, he's envisioning a future where we merge with it.
In a way, yes. He sees it as a potential path to a future where humans and machines can co-evolve, working together to create something greater than either could achieve alone.
Wow. Okay. So to bring it back to our earlier discussion about transhumanism, it sounds like Buterin's vision aligns with that in some ways.
Definitely. He is essentially arguing that we should embrace the transformative potential of technology while also being mindful of the risks and working to mitigate them.
It's like he's saying, yes, the future could be amazing, but let's make sure we're building it in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the fundamental question that Max Moore raises. What is the point of it all? If we can use technology to radically enhance ourselves, to extend our lifespans, to merge with machines, what does it mean to be human in that kind of future?
It's like, what gives our lives meaning in a world where technology is constantly reshaping the very fabric of our existence?
Right. And Moore's answer, in a nutshell, is that meaning isn't something that's just given to us. It's something we create through our choices, our actions, our relationships, our pursuit of knowledge, our contributions to something larger than ourselves.
So even in a world of radical technological advancement, our humanity is still defined by our values, our aspirations, our capacity for love, compassion, creativity.
Exactly. And Moore believes that technology can actually enhance these qualities, that it can give us more freedom and more opportunities to live meaningful lives.
It's like technology isn't the enemy of meaning, it's a tool that can help us create it.
Right. It's all about how we choose to use it. And that's something for all of us to think about as we navigate this exciting, uncertain, and rapidly changing technological landscape.
Absolutely. Well, this has been quite a journey. We've covered so much ground, from the unbridled optimism of Andreessen to the cautious hopefulness of Onode, the philosophical depths of transhumanism with Moore, and the pragmatic yet visionary approach of Buterin.
It's been a whirlwind of ideas, that's for sure.
It really makes you think about the future we're creating and the role we all play in shaping it.
Definitely. And hopefully it's given our listeners plenty to ponder as well.
I hope so. Because at the end of the day, the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we create together. So let's make it a good one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.